Tourists keep coming to London and thinking they've seen Britain. They haven't. Not even close. 200 miles from Buckingham Palace, there are streets where the life expectancy for men is 67, the same age you'd just be retiring. These are the UK towns that don't appear on postcards, and today we're visiting 7 of them with the official data to back it up. One town watched by its last working pottery die after 112 years because the energy bill went up by £250,000. One place has 75% of private rental properties containing damp and mold, and another received over £500 million in public funds that somehow turned into £97 land deals. If you don't subscribe after this one, I genuinely don't know what to tell you. This is peak content. Peak. Number 7, Greenock, Scotland. If you've never heard of Greenock, that's exactly the problem. It sits on the southern bank of the Firth of Clyde, about 25 miles west of Glasgow, and it holds a record nobody wants. According to the Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation, Greenock Town Centre is ranked the #1 most deprived data zone in all of Scotland. Out of 6,976 measured zones, it sits dead last. Inverclyde, the local authority area that includes Greenock, has the highest employment deprivation rate in Scotland at 14.3%. 30% of the entire population lives in the most deprived 10% of Scottish areas. That is tied with Glasgow City, which has roughly 8 times the population. Now, Scotland already has Europe's worst drug death record. In 2024, the country recorded 1,017 drug misuse deaths, and Inverclyde sits in the top 3 local authorities for drug fatality rates. With a population of just 77,000 having 26 drug-related deaths in a single year, tells you something is fundamentally broken. The story of how Greenock got here is the story of British shipbuilding. Scott's Shipyard, once one of the most important employers on the entire River Clyde, is now a call center. Yes, you read that right. The yard that built ships for the Royal Navy is now a place where someone tries to sell you broadband. Inch Green Dry Dock, which once fitted out the Queen Elizabeth and the QE2, had its last major project in 2009. There is an active campaign group fighting just to stop it from being permanently closed. Robert, a 76-year-old former apprentice from neighboring Port Glasgow, gave an interview where he listed every shipyard he had worked at across his career. Scott's in Greenock, John Brown's at Clydebank, Camel Laird in Birkenhead. His working life was a tour of every dwing industrial town on the British West Coast. There is some good news, though. A £24 million central Greenock redevelopment kicked off in January 2026, with the demolition of Hector McNeil House and parts of the Oak Mall shopping centre. The Port of Greenock had a record-breaking cruise season in 2025, with over 150,000 potential visitors stepping off ships. And the UK government has allocated £20 million under its Plans for Neighbourhoods program. Whether that is enough to undo decades of decline, well, that is the trillion-pound question. Across the River Mersey from Liverpool sits a town that has been deprived for so long. It is actually statistically impressive. The Wirral 011C neighbourhood, which covers North Birkenhead around Laird Street, is one of only 3 areas in all of England that has appeared in the bottom 100 most deprived neighbourhoods on every single index of multiple deprivation since 2004. That is 21 years of consistent, government-verified suffering. But here's the part that genuinely shocked me when I read it. 2 specific Birkenhead neighbourhoods, Birkenhead East Float and Hamilton Square A, are ranked 1st and 2nd in all of England for health and disability deprivation. Out of 33,755 neighbourhoods nationally, those 2 are at the absolute bottom of the health pile. The life expectancy gap between Birkenhead and the wealthier West Wirral areas exceeds a decade. Around Grange Road West, 99% of measured areas in England and Wales have higher average household income. Violent and sexual offenses in this area run at roughly 540 crimes per 1,000 residents. Now, the wild part is not that Birkenhead is deprived. The wild part is that the government has known for 21 years, and the regeneration efforts keep failing. Wirral Council has secured more than £150 million in government grants under the Birkenhead 2040 framework. The town centre regeneration project alone has ballooned to roughly £24 million, £12 million over budget. Multiple regeneration directors have suddenly departed, taking institutional knowledge with them. The single most surreal example of mismanagement was when the council spent £1.5 million developing detailed plans to relocate Birkenhead Market into the former House of Fraser building. They then scrapped the entire plan over an email. An email. The market currently runs on £750,000 of taxpayer subsidy every single year. Natalie Young-Calvert, who runs a community organization in the town, summed it up. People are sick of being asked what they want. They have told you on numerous occasions. Why hasn't it happened yet? She added that her office has the most used food bank in Wirral 3 doors down. By the way, if you are enjoying this honest look at the parts of Britain that do not make the postcards, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I cover a new region every week, the good and the brutal. Now back to it. Number 5. Merthyr Tydfil, Wales. Once upon a time, Merthyr Tydfil was the largest iron-producing town in the entire world. The Industrial Revolution basically started here. Today, it has the lowest male life expectancy in all of Wales at 75 years and the lowest female healthy life expectancy in the entire United Kingdom. That second number is worth slowing down for. Female healthy life expectancy in Merthyr is 50.1 years. That means women in this town spend the majority of their adult lives in poor health. It dropped by 6.8 years, the largest decrease in Wales. To put that in context, that is lower than several countries that the UK Foreign Office actively warns travelers about. Penydarren 1, a ward in the town, ranks as the 7th most deprived area in all of Wales according to the 2025 Welsh Index of Multiple Deprivation. The prisoner population rate is 515 per 100,000, the highest of any Welsh local authority. The Greenock estate, built as council housing in the 1950s and expanded in the 1970s, became infamous across Wales for high crime and welfare dependency. And here is the detail that really tells the story. Both pubs on the estate, the Greenock Tavern and the Matchstick Man, have permanently closed. The Matchstick Man was named after Johnny Owen, the local boxing legend who died in the ring in 1980. When the pubs go on a Welsh estate, you know it is bad. The pub is the last institution to die. A reporter from Wales Online interviewed residents about the cost of living. Jody, a 30-year-old shop worker at the Premier on Chestnut Way, said, "The drinks have all gone up, and you will see them come in, pick them up, and put them back down. Some people have little babies and nobody else around them to help with gas. That makes me sad." Daryl Wells, 57, who lives with post-traumatic stress disorder and epilepsy, said something that stuck with me. "It makes me sick. Absolutely sick. People are going to start committing crimes to keep themselves warm." He was not being dramatic. He was reporting from the front line of a cost of living crisis the rest of the country has mostly forgotten about. The UK government has committed £20 million over 10 years under its Plan for Neighbourhoods program. A new indoor market opened in December 2024. Tydfil Castle, built by the ironmaster who made Merthyr famous, still draws heritage tourism. The town's population has stayed stable at around 58,000, which suggests people feel a connection to this place that statistics cannot capture. Stoke-on-Trent is famous for one thing, and we are watching that one thing die in real time. At its 1948 peak, around 79,000 people worked in Stoke's pottery industry across roughly 200 factories. Today, approximately 30 potteries remain, and that number is shrinking by the month. Heritage Crafts, the official body that monitors traditional United Kingdom industries, has placed industrial pottery on its Red List of endangered crafts. It is on the same list as makers of cricket balls and side saddles. The first 4 months of 2025 alone saw 3 historic manufacturers close: Royal Stafford in Burslem, the last working pottery in the town of Burslem, was liquidated in February 2025. More than 80 jobs were lost. The firm dated back to 1845. Then on April 30th, Moorcroft and Coatbridge closed after 112 years. The reason was the energy bill rose by £250,000 over 2 years. 57 jobs were lost. Burley Pottery, one of the few remaining operations, issued a public statement that read like a eulogy. It has become painfully clear that the losses are accelerating. With the closure of Royal Stafford, the last working pottery in the town of Burslem, and now Moorcroft, the last pottery in Coatbridge. These were once areas filled with hundreds of factories. Read that twice. Hundreds of factories, replaced with empty buildings. Stoke ranks 19th most deprived local authority in England. 29% of its neighbourhoods sit in the most deprived decile. Female healthy life expectancy is just 55.1 years, the third lowest in the entire UK behind North Ayrshire and Blackpool. Drug offences increased 42.9% year over year, and they have more than doubled over 3 years. The Hanley and Etruria ward has a child poverty rate of 53%. That is over 1,200 children, just in one ward. The Pottery Shopping Centre in Hanley has become the visual symbol of the crisis. TripAdvisor reviews call it a zombie-like world of closed shops and litter, and one reviewer predicted it will end up on an urban exploration YouTube channel. A YouTube video titled "Stoke, the City with No Hope" has racked up over 500,000 views. But here is what the doom scrollers miss. Emma Bridgewater still operates from Hanley. Burley Pottery in Middleport was beautifully restored by the Prince's Regeneration Trust. The British Ceramics Biennial draws over 40,000 visitors. Stoke secured £56 million in levelling up funding, plus another $20 million in partnership funding. House prices average just £170,000, meaning first-time buyers priced out of the rest of England are quietly moving in. The pottery industry might be in palliative care, but the city is not dead yet. It is just deciding what comes next. If you want to understand modern British inequality in a single statistic, here it is. In Middlesbrough's Newport ward, 85% of children grow up in poverty. That is the highest child poverty rate of any ward in the United Kingdom. 6 out of every 7 kids. Middlesbrough has the highest proportion of most deprived neighbourhoods of any local authority in England. 50% of its measured areas sit in the bottom decile nationally. The town is more deprived than 93% of all local authority districts in the country. Crime deprivation has gotten dramatically worse, moving from 15th worst in 2019 to 2nd worst in 2025. Cleveland Police, which covers Middlesbrough, records the highest overall crime rate in England and Wales. Criminal damage runs at 289% of the national average. Mean wages sit at £2,705 per month, compared with £3,271 nationally. That gap has widened by £160 a month since 2017. In November 2025, Sky News reported from Newport Ward, a story that should have been a national scandal. Child exploitation gangs were offering children what they called a lucrative life of crime. 12-year-olds were dealing drugs in Salterskill. Drugs were hidden inside Kinder Eggs. Read that line again. Kinder Eggs, the toy with the chocolate around it. Then there's the Teaseworks situation, which is its own dark farce. The 4,500-acre former Redcar Steelworks site received over £560 million of public money. According to ITV News investigations, private developers reportedly acquired land for £96.79. That's roughly £1 per acre plus inflation. Member of Parliament Andy MacDonald called it industrial-scale corruption in Parliament. Private Eye magazine ran a long-form investigation titled Stripped Teas. And then on August 4th, 2024, far-right rioters targeted residential areas in Middlesbrough, smashing windows, torching cars, and pushing burning wheelie bins at police. 43 people were arrested. A 34-year-old woman received 20 months for shoving a flaming bin at officers. The Crown Court itself was damaged. Mayor Chris Cook, to his credit, has been honest about the scale of the problem. Even if we end up not making it to the least deprived place in the country, which is not a realistic target, we need to not be where we are currently. That's about as candid as British political language gets. The good news, and there is some, is that income deprivation in Middlesbrough actually improved from worst in England to 8th worst between 2019 and 2025. CAH Offshore Wind is building a monopile factory at Teesworks. The Net Zero Teesside carbon capture project is one of the UK's largest green infrastructure investments. £655,000 was allocated for community recovery after the riots. It's not zero, but it's not nearly enough. If you have made it this far, you genuinely deserve a medal. Hit the like button and subscribe because we cover the parts of UK life nobody else will touch. Blackpool is the most deprived local authority in all of England by every single measure the government uses. Average rank, average score, local concentration. It wins them all, or loses them all, depending on how you look at it. 10 of the 20 most deprived neighbourhoods in England sit within Blackpool's borders. 40.4% of Blackpool's 94 measured areas fall in the most deprived national decile. The town ranks first in England for employment and health deprivation. It ranks second for crime. But the number that should make every politician in Britain lose sleep is this. Male life expectancy in Blackpool is 73.1 years. That is the lowest in England. That is 6 years below the national average, and a 10.3-year gap compared to Hart and Hampshire, where men live to 83.7. Within Blackpool itself, the gap is even more brutal. Men in the Bloomfield ward live to 67.3 years. Their state pension kicks in at 67. They get 15 months of retirement before, statistically, they are gone. Meanwhile, men in the suburban Martin ward live to 80.5. That is a 13.2-year gap. In the same town, postcodes apart, healthy life expectancy for men in Bloomfield is 47.1 years. 47. That means by age 47, the average Bloomfield man is already living with chronic illness or disability. Drug deaths in Blackpool run at almost 4 times the England average. Alcohol-related deaths are the highest in England. 75% of private rented sector properties have damp and mold. 75%. The looked-after children rate is 150 per 10,000, the highest in England, more than double the national average. Here's a statistic that explains a lot. 86% of new benefit claimants in Blackpool originate from outside the town. People are being effectively dumped here because the converted seaside B&Bs and guest houses have created a glut of cheap rooms. Up to 37% of private rented properties in resort areas are now classified as houses in multiple occupation. The town has become a nationwide sponge for displaced poverty. The Salvation Army's bridge project supported nearly 1,000 people in Blackpool in 2024 alone. Captain John Clifton described the crisis as deep-rooted in Blackpool owing to poor housing, high rent costs, and low-paid and seasonal work. Michael, a 47-year-old service user, lived in a tent for 5 months while working a 0-hour contract. His words were haunting. He said, "I have worked all my life, and I was still working but did not have anywhere to go, as my wages did not stretch to a deposit and a first month's rent." Then there was the BBC documentary The Doping Ward, which exposed how Nurse Catherine Hudson at Blackpool Victoria Hospital was jailed for illegally sedating patients to keep them quiet on the night shift. That happened in an English hospital on the NHS in 2025. There is hope. Blackpool secured £90.4 million in housing regeneration funding from Homes England in March 2024, targeting demolition of 400 poor-quality properties and construction of 230 new homes. The Showtown Museum, a £13 million investment, and Blackpool's first-ever museum, opened in March 2024 with V&A loans, including Tommy Cooper's fez and Peter Kay's purple suit. Free entry is provided for residents. The illuminations now run from August to January, extending tourism into a year-round operation. But all of that is fighting against a tide of structural decline that has been building for 40 years, and the tide is still winning. Number 1. Jaywick Sands, Essex. I want you to picture a place that has been ranked the single most deprived neighborhood in the entire country. Not for 1 year, not for 5 years, but for 16 consecutive years. Welcome to Jaywick. The Brooklands area of this Essex seaside village has been ranked first out of 33,755 neighborhoods in England on every single index of multiple deprivation since 2010, across 4 consecutive publications. It is one of only 2 areas in the entire country deprived across all 7 IMD domains simultaneously. Income, employment, education, health, crime, housing, environment, all of them. Bottom of the pile. About 40% of residents are unable to work. At Frobisher Primary School, 60% of pupils receive free school meals. Average income sits at roughly £360 per week. Property prices in Brooklands are genuinely shocking. Bungalows have sold for around £20,000. Homes are still available from approximately £50,000. To put that in perspective, that is less than a new Volkswagen Golf. The area falls within the highest flood risk category in the country. Many roads in the Brooklands estate remain unadopted, which means the council does not fund maintenance, and that hinders even emergency vehicle access. The streets are technically in legal limbo. In 2018, Jaywick had 2 surreal moments of international attention. The United Nations Special Rapporteur for Extreme Poverty visited the village. Separately, an image of Jaywick was used in a United States Republican attack ad by congressional candidate Nick Stella in Illinois, intended to scare voters about what would happen if Democrats won. Tendring District Council had to formally object to the use of their village as an American political horror story. In 2024, Jaywick made horrifying national headlines when XL bully dogs mauled grandmother Esther Martin, 68, to death while she was babysitting her grandson. The dogs belonged to her son-in-law. The story became a flashpoint in the national debate over the XL bully ban. Channel 5's 2015 documentary Benefits. By the Sea branded Jaywick, the closest thing this country has to a shantytown. The headmistress of Frobisher Primary School gave an interview that contained the single most quietly devastating line I read during research for this video. When you go to certain parts of it, you are quite shocked that you are in England. But here's what makes Jaywick different from a poverty tourism story. The community is fierce. Christopher Thompson, a 60-year-old resident, told the BBC, "It is deprived, it needs investment, there is nothing here for the kids. The community is amazing. Amazing people down here, they all help each other out." Julie Coleman, who runs Julie's Alterations on Brooklands, pushed back hard on the media portrayals. The show almost destroyed Jaywick. It made us all seem like drunks and druggies, and not everybody is like that. Adrian Brockwell, the landlord of the 3J's pub, said with absolute defiant humor, "I think it's the Monte Carlo of England. We should build a nice marina here." And there is real movement. Tendring District Council has agreed on a £126 million, 20-year improvement plan called the Jaywick Sands Place Plan. £19.7 million in government partnership funding has already been awarded. The Sunspot Business Centre, a £4.4 million facility on the seafront, had 23 of its 24 units rented to small businesses by October 2023. 10 flood-resilient homes have been built on Lotus Way. The Essex Pedal Power Scheme has handed out 200 free bikes. 16 years at the bottom of the official misery index. And the residents are still here, still fighting, still making jokes about marinas in the rain. That tells you something about the resilience of the British character that no government statistic ever will. So, those are the 7. I'll see you in the next one. If you live in any of these 7 towns, genuine respect. You deserve better than what your government has delivered.